I don't know about you. I found that last episode really stressful and chaotic.
Yeah, I did. I
What
think
was
it's just the
different?
time of the year. I don't know. Full moon?
Yeah,
Is it?
full moon.
Maybe
Clocks
because
have
I've
gone
had
back.
chamomile. Yeah. It just feels much more relaxed. I don't know why. I
Sorry,
don't know. Perhaps we'll
did
never
you
know.
did you did you just say you had chamomile tea?
Yeah.
My God, I hate you. Hi there, and welcome to episode 199. My God, how did we get there? Of the ADHD Adults podcast. I am James Brown, the human equivalent of single-use plastic. It looks useful at first, but mainly just chokes progress and washes up where it doesn't belong. And I'm joined, as usual, by Dr. Alex Connor, a man so emotionally flexible you can make a carrier bag out of him. And sadly, this week, which actually, that explains the fact that it was chaotic last episode.
Yeah, genius.
We're without Mrs. ADHD largely because I had a migraine yesterday and she was meant to be with us and she can't. It wasn't deliberate just to keep her off the show. I mean, it was. And it means I wasted 13 seconds writing the gag, the kind of plastic that's been melted, reformed, and somehow doesn't fit the mold still, like Tupperware with attention issues. But she's not here. So, Alex, hi.
Tupper unaware.
That's better than your actual hello, I imagine.
In fact, oil refrained from a silly hello today because plasticity is a serious subject. Neuroplastic oil, that's...
Yeah, let's just push that behind us, shall we? How are you both? No, she's not here. How are you, Alex, I suppose?
Oh, bloody hell, I don't know, James. Why do you ask me so many questions? Only joking. I'm excellent, thank you. Yes, I don't think I would have predicted 199 episodes when we started this nonsense, or 2 episodes probably, if I'm honest. One of whom has sent us a letter.
The episodes?
No, I don't know. I'll just check it's from though. It's from a yes, it's from Robert from Kidderminster.
No.
It says, "Dear guys, I'm back on track with the episodes now down here, and I listened to your last episode on the long-term effects of ADHD meds. And apart from all 3 of you discussing short-term side effects in the personal reflections bit, and none of you noticing, I also read a recent paper on ultra long-term effects of the meds. N equaled 1, but it said after 347 years, you turn into a sad sort of vampire clown with big hair and too many guitars."
I'm not allowed to like these letters, so I've got to.
I like that one.
You should, just before you say that, Dad, if you're so fucking obsessed with the fact that we got things wrong, help with the editing down there. What are you doing with your time, for God's sake?
I mean, yeah, torture mainly. We've had a real letter. Can I read it out?
Yes. No.
Yes. It's from Danny with an I. It says, "Dear James, dear Alex, dear Mrs. ADHD." It actually says that. "I thought you might appreciate this letter to the podcast because, ellipsis, it comes from Transylvania. I was born..." It annoys you, doesn't it, that? The ellipsis thing. It means 3 dots.
Yeah.
You know, James. "I was born and raised in Transylvania. Went to university in the city of the unofficial capital of Transylvania." It doesn't say what it is, but I hope it's Cluj-Napoca, which I visited and had a wonderful time. It carries on to say, "And I've moved to the UK a few years ago with my girlfriend of 17 years, a fellow Transylvanian." This is fucking amazing. "Like any self-respecting vampire." "Also, I have grown up on a street called Transylvania Street." So you cannot get more legit than this, correct? "Oh, my granddad was a groundskeeper for the cemetery in his village, and I've spent many days in cemeteries." Smiley face, which looks creepy in context. "I would like to express my gratitude for the work you're doing for the world of ADHD. I've received my diagnosis about a week ago, and to be fair, I'm very much struggling with it, not with accepting it, but with what it has done to my head recently. I've become much more aware of my symptoms, the way they affect me, and of the fact that I do not know how to handle them properly and get out of my head. I seem to get in these infinite loops where I'm unable to even try to focus or concentrate on simple things. It's high time I also got assigned some treatment drugs and or therapy Thank you once again. Please don't stop what you're doing. Danny, what a lovely letter and very familiar and relatable.
Yeah, it was. I think we need to do an episode on kind of skill regression, the thing that we all tend to feel happens after diagnosis.
Yeah, and a bit,
that
but
type
it's
of
like
verse.
grief as well. And just because you're paying attention to something doesn't mean there's more of it. It means you notice it more often, right? But if it's making you sad, the whole ADHD label thing is about opening up your universe, isn't it? So it's a good label if it does. It's
half a ding in there, a D maybe, opening up your universe. But yeah, okay.
We just got the
anyway, as ding. Anyway, as usual, this Jim Bro wants to correct your form, but really just wants to be a prick of a podcast. Is a tragedy in 3 parts. This bit, Al, this bit now, this is or was, depending on when you're listening, part 1. And in part 2, the man who thinks a wild night is staying up past question time of science, Alex the Psychoeducation monkey.
Hello.
Will deliver the evidence behind today's subject, and then we'll give some personal reflections. But again, you'll have switched off by then. So, what are we talking about this week, Sam? Do I have to do the voice?
You have to do the voice.
Yeah. This week, we're going to be discussing ADHD and neuroplasticity. And that's the end of part 1, which, like Googling, does Tesco self-checkout count as social interaction? You'll regret later. Join us in part 2, where Alex will go off on a tangent so long it needs its own postcode, and James will drag the energy down like a human blackout.
So sad.
Alex, hi.
Aight. What's hello, governor.
Welcome back to part 2. Welcome back to part 2. That squash is far too strong still. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 199 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we're talking about ADHD and neuroplasticity. Alex, go.
Right. Neuroplasticity, plasticky neuros. Yep. You know at school how we always learn that your brain doesn't regrow or change once you're grown up, it's fixed. Well, neuroplasticity means that neurons can actually, in a limited way though, adapt and rewire throughout your whole blooming life. This idea has been around since ages ago, 1890.
Wow.
And a chap called William James, named after you, James, because you knew him as a kid. Because you old. Anywho, this Billy J, this guy, he suggested the brain might actually be capable of change. That was a pretty wild thought back then, still is. Now we know it is one of the key reasons we are still able to learn and recover, and very occasionally, James, improve. Present company accepted. This is the brain's built-in lifelong upgrade system. So every experience you have, every new skill you develop, old dogs and new tricks, even the process of falling flat on your face and learning from it, nudges your brain to make little tiny structural and or functional changes and learn. Neuroplasticity is an umbrella term that covers all of these processes. It can be the tiny microscopic stuff happening in individual brain cells, neurons, to the large scale reshaping of whole brain networks.
Right, I'm going to get in here early. What's the difference then between like small stuff? Oh yeah, well done, good thing. What's the difference between small stuff and the big stuff then?
Well, at the micro level, that's small stuff, James. It's like you got your career as a scientist based on that hair.
It's not false.
Small stuff. Neurons strengthen or weaken their connections with each other. Scientists call that long-term potentiation or long-term depression. Oh dear. That's basically the brain's way of saying long-term potentiation, this bit's important. Remember that. Or long-term depression, forget that now. It's not just that, but it's a bit like that. The brain can also grow new connections between neurons. Incidentally, if you struggle with the word neuron, people used to say nerve, didn't they? But nerves are actually strictly the bundles in your body of neurons that group together, usually in the body rather than the brain. The brain's mainly just the cells on their own, the neurons. That was boring. So, but the brain can grow new connections and prune away the ones it doesn't need, and even grow new neurons themselves in some areas. Surprisingly, zoom out to the macro level, big, James, and all those small changes that weren't genetic, remember, environmental changes, can add up to big, James, reorganizations in how brain areas talk to each other. That's how we learn those new skills, form memories, and adapt to whatever chaos life throws at us. Neuroplasticity is also a major player in recovery after brain injury and a key part of how treatments for mental health conditions actually work.
So, and I can't state how this is going to massively simplify a complex answer. How does it work? He says after delivering a hospital pass.
It's a hospital pass, isn't it? I'm so sorry about the next bit. Right. One of the key players in brain rewiring, it's N-methyl-D-aspartate receptor. You might have heard of NMDA, and that's what it stands for. The receptor, you can say NMDAR for the receptor if you're feeling fancy. Daft name, as in fact, it isn't. It is just one of the receptors for that really common brain's most abundant excitatory neurotransmitter, glutamate. Strictly, it is sort of a glutamate receptor, NMDA. But it doesn't work just because glutamate's knocking at the door in the same way James can't get into your house because he's attracted. In this case, though, it usually needs a partner, like glycine or serine or something. And it also needs the cell that the receptor is in to already be a bit excited or electrically charged or depolarized, if you want to sound like you paid attention in neurobiology, because James thinks depolarized is when they got rid of the penguins at the safari park.
That's what they called it.
Let's depolarize the safari park. Anywho, it only works when the sending and receiving neurons in this system are both active. The brain sees that something important's happened, like, for example, when you win a crossword competition.
Fuck off.
So both neurons are triggered, a bunch of molecular fireworks are set off that strengthen or weaken the connection between those neurons, so you get long-term potentiation or long-term depression, I said a bit ago. Basically, this is the brain's way of writing or deleting memories, or not putting short-term memories into your long-term brain. It's a bit like pruning a bush, and I meant to write ding in the script, but I accidentally wrote dong.
I like dong, actually. Ding.
Double dong. It's like pruning a tree, this, or a bonsai tree in your case, James. So, in short, the NMD receptor is the brain's main switch for what it needs to learn and remember. When it's not working well, it helps you remember where you parked your car and irregular verbs. When it's not working well, welcome to ADHD and je suis une pomme de terre.
You had to do it, didn't you? You had to mention ADHD this kind of like relatively early on, didn't you? So continue.
All right, Bab. Yes, fair cop. Alongside the usual dopamine and noradrenaline, serotonin aspects to ADHD, there is, yes, a growing theory that problems with NMDA receptors might be one of the root causes of ADHD. Australian ding. And there's a decent but really early pile of evidence that's starting to back that up. Genetics first, yes, please. It isn't caused by a single gene. It's polygenic, which means we evolved from parrots, James. Polygenic. Okay, Jesus. Right. Polygenic means there are hundreds of genes, all making small, chaotic contributions to what ADHD is, and you don't need all of them. We all have our own meal from the buffet. A few stand out, though, because they can mess with NMDA receptor function. There's no point naming them, is there? Okay, like SORC-S3 and FOXP. FOXP is my rapper name, James.
You released anything yet? Because I can't wait to review that.
Yeah. All the jokes in my head to answer that question would get me cancelled. Right. Unfortunately, we also sadly have animal studies backing this up. Frankenstein's scientists mess sometimes with NMDA receptors in animals. So breaking the genes or tweaking the genes that control the genes. And those results look suspiciously familiar. You get impulsivity, restlessness, difficulty focusing. In other words, little furry ADHD James is bouncing off the lab walls asking for drugs. And finally, you've got brain anatomy. Guess where you find NMDA receptors, James? Wrong. They're in the brain. And but specifically, they are concentrated in the prefrontal cortex and hippopotamus campus. And those are two regions that are consistently shown to behave a bit differently in people with ADHD. Prefrontal cortex, they help with, it's a squirrel, look. Because attentional control. That is good. I know it's a lazy, tired, boring cliche, but I love the squirrel thing.
Me too.
If those regions are underperforming, attention goes out of the window like the squirrel. In the hippopotamus campus, the NMD receptors support working memory and spatial memory, and specifically making sure that's long term. And both of those things can be wildly out of kilter in us. So those receptors are involved in neuroplasticity. Your brain's ability to adapt and fine-tune itself takes a hit if they don't work properly. And that could be a key part of why ADHD brains process the world in the shitty way we do it.
So I always like new approaches and theories. So can we kind of throw out the whole dopamine model and start again? Maybe not just listen. And this is important, not just because ketamine works on NMDA receptors, mind.
Yeah. No, don't be stupid. No. Not really. It's a really fair and good question. I just wanted to call you stupid. Someone write it for you, probably, did they? No. So the NMDA theory or hypothesis does not replace the classic dopamine problem model of ADHD, James, as you well know. It fits alongside it. I was thinking about the analogies. James uses car analogies. I was thinking that if just remembering something in our brain box as we sleep, so short-term memory to long-term, is like a car journey from start to finish. The dopamine system is a bit like the driver choosing to turn the engine on, planning a route. And the NMDA glutamate system is like the engine that allows that journey to happen once it's been decided a bit. So the NMDA, ironically, drives that brain plasticity, all the learning and adapting and rewiring. Dopamine and friends, on the other hand, is the switch that controls when that car actually goes and why. They work together, not separately. So shut up. Right, we're going to cut the next bit in post. Go on.
That's interesting. Shut up annoys me less than shush. I've got obviously a trigger for shush, whereas shut up, it's not nice, but I didn't throw something. Anyway, sidebar, carry on.
Dad, the next bit it's definitely parental. That's what I'm saying. We're going to cut the next bit in post because, oh my God, it's boring, but we love it. And so I'm going to say it and then forget I ever did. At the molecular level, there's two systems in constant conversation, like the car thing I just said. Dopamine 1 receptors can generally lead to a boost in NMDA receptor activity. And then dopamine 2 receptors can pretty much do the opposite, like the brakes, damping things down. So different dopamine receptors can act as a switch for plasticity. So we can learn from what happens in the world around us as we activate stuff and don't. And the timing of the dopamine release is especially important as well. Dopamine being released in short bursts, boom, 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 called phasic dopamine, who I saw at Glastonbury, James, in 04, in response to something rewarding or important, little bursts, tells the brain, hey, that thing you just did then, that thing, do it again. Like, for example, watching a short, shitty video on TikTok, he goes, oh, do it again. Almost literally flip a connection from weak to strong in the brain, depending on when it arrives and why. This is where ADHD comes in. Adults with ADHD tend to have too little of the steady, tonic, tonal dopamine. It's called low tonic dopamine, who never got a record deal, and too much of the spiky, inconsistent kind of dopamine that's so high, phasic dopamine. When researchers build computer models of that brain chemistry, the virtual brains, those ADHD brains, behave really similarly to real ones, struggle to learn from feedback. They show erratic reaction times to stuff, trouble sticking with tasks that don't give quick rewards. When the dopamine switch can't properly modulate that glutamate engine, the whole system gets haywire, noisy, unpredictable, like James is driving. So that might just be a biological reason so many of us just open new tabs instead of finishing the one we started.
My driving's actually improved, although I did recently get caught speeding, obviously. So if neuroplasticity is good, how do we do it?
How do we do it?
Yeah.
Willpower. 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 That's my porn name.
Willpower.
Absolutely no willpower. Yeah, just try a bit harder, James, and use a planner. No, not really, obviously. As we covered just last week, remember, James? No, you don't. There is emerging evidence that stimulant medication can possibly increase neuroplasticity. This is controversial. List of stuff you might want to try or not, because it's too early. Boring list. Klaxon. Oh, man, tired. Need a drink of fizzy pop.
Drink of Klascon. Is that a German brand of fear?
Right. Is it? Might be. Cognitive training's described sometimes. Oh, can you try cognitive training? Oh. So yes and no. There is a study that used high resolution brain scanning to see if you can target certain types of cognitive training and change brain structure. They got people with ADHD, not medicated, series of brain exercises aimed at boosting working memory, planning, attention, and they did brain scans on them before and immediately after the training. Pretty interesting results compared to controls. If you did the training, you got measurable increases in grey matter volume. Not everywhere, but parts of the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. That's the bit, the back at the fronty bit, that helps with focus and decision making. There are very reasons that often show volume loss in ADHD folk. Problem is, brain training itself is really shit, and the science is mixed, and it's very, very task specific. So if you do loads of Sudokus, what you get is good at Sudokus. We have to just be really clear on that. So it's just an interesting bit of science, but like way early. Then you've got mindfulness. Choosing at its core to pay attention to the present moment without emotionally judging shit is not the ADHD default setting for most of us. If you do so, though, it acts as a kind of neuroplastic workout for the brain networks involved in attention, self-awareness, and emotional control. And so brain imaging studies, again, find that people who practice mindfulness show two big changes, and they are basically the opposite of what we see in ADHD. If we change that sentence to people that can do mindfulness, I think it's almost like, it's almost ableist. One of the things is that it calms that old default mode network, the DMN, the demon that we talk about, and can reconnect the demon to executive networks. So like relaxation, reflection, and doing shit. Mindfulness seems to reconnect them, strengthening the link between the self-reflective part of the brain, posterior cingulate cortex, backy bit that looks like a belt on the outsidey bit, and the control center, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, Gesundheit. And it doesn't stop there. Structural brain studies show that regular mindfulness practice is linked to thicker cortex, outsidey bit, bark of a tree, in areas linked to attention, awareness of what our body, not other people's bodies, and emotional regulation. Those are the insular and somatosensory cortex. I mean, that does what it says in the tin. So the brain just doesn't just function differently. It looks different too. Presumably thicker is good. We do not know, but probably
not in the case of this podcast.
No, bad. I miss Sam. There are other approaches, neurofeedback, unrelated, and brain stimulation, TDCS, but the data is too early, too unreliable, far too unreliable for us to make recommendations on that. We will definitely do episodes on that, though.
So does all of this, do you think, open the door to, because we haven't got many like viable treatments, does this open the door to new treatments for ADHD, do you think?
It's funny you should ask that, isn't it? Because yes, it does. Because you already knew that, you disingenuous knob. That's if we focus on medication, research has led to a new idea. What if we could treat ADHD not by cranking up the dopamine, but by stabilizing those phasic NMDA receptors and tonic ones instead, or the dopamine that they lead to. One of the most promising drugs in this area is called D-cycloserine. Who was next, man? Sometimes called DCS, who makes sofas. It's already approved for the uses, and this DCS seems to act as a kind of booster for NMDA receptors. So rather than switching them fully on, it works at a side entry point, ding, giving a gentle nudge, double ding, that helps the receptor open when it is supposed to. That's why researchers call it a plasticity enhancer. I like the word allosteric modulator, James. Do you? Well, you said it outside.
I remember when you once said that to me, and I think it was 2008, and I nodded and pretended that I knew what it meant.
Really?
I still don't really know. I know it means it doesn't necessarily bind where the agonist binds. It binds somewhere else and helps the agonist do something.
Yeah, like orthodox means like traditional. Orthosteric means if you've got a key to a door and you've got another, and you fill up the whole of the where the key goes in with something else, that's like the orthodox place where the key goes. If you put a drill in the side of the door that goes all the way through and stops the door opening, it's blocking the door from opening, but not in the same place that the key works. That's a different place. That's what allostery is. We can cut that. A major proof of concept study that tested plasticity enhancers in healthy adults was double-blind and placebo-controlled. It's the gold standard, and we very rarely read that out because nobody's funding ADHD research. And what they did is looked at what happened to brain plasticity after a low dose of DCS, this drug. Turns out people who took the DCS showed stronger and longer lasting brain responses after high frequency visual stimulation, basically a measurable sign of enhanced neuroplasticity. And behaviorally, the people that took that DCS also did better on gradual learning tasks, the sort that depend on long-term memories, long-term potentiation processes in the brain's box. No, the brain's learning. I like saying brain box. The brain's learning circuits. The idea is that opens up a whole new class of treatments for conditions like ADHD, not just that though, epilepsy and autistic ADHD, lots of stuff. Not stimulants that just goose the dopamine system, but drugs that help the brain relearn how to learn, how to adapt and respond more effectively to experience. Holy shit.
I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. I liked it, which makes me feel sick to my core. We'll be back in a bit, which won't take long, obviously, for part 3, is it? I don't know where we'll give our personal reflections or summit. See you in a bit.
Womble's cock.
Womble's cocks.
Welcome back to episode 199, Problems But Sam Ain't One, of the ADHD Adult Podcast. We're talking about ADHD and neuroplasticity. As always, probably in part 3, we're doing personal reflections on building routines and remembering that de in French is not 3, and it's neuroplasticity. I guess building routines is neuroplasticity, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when you don't read the script, go fuck yourself, San Diego. James, go.
Right. I suppose personal reflections have to come from the perspective of being a really bad scientist, but being interested in the science. I love the idea of just in general moving away from dopamine being the main target. And the reason that we've got the medications that we've got largely is because of when Ritalin was first trialed and it had an impact. And therefore, that's the way in which drug companies work is, how can we build something, make something that looks similar or works similarly? And there are so many different neurotransmitters that are involved, dopamine, noradrenaline, glutamate, GABA, acetylcholine, endocannabinoids. There's absolutely stacks of them. That there is evidence are involved. And I think it's kind of frustrating that when we've got a medication or when we've had a medication crisis like recently, and we're relying on a very small number of medications for what is a rapidly growing population of people that require those medications, that we're miles behind other countries, particularly America, when it comes to the number of medications that can be offered. And I think I read something the other day, Al, and I don't know if you'll know this better than me, that described beautifully, I think. It was talking about noradrenaline and dopamine, and it said noradrenaline is the signal and dopamine is the noise. So noradrenaline, if you like, drives a lot of the kind of, if you like, the positive arousal, attention-based stuff, and dopamine is largely, apart from in the reward center, about dampening down the noise, quietening down the other stuff, so that you can focus on whatever task it is. And I quite liked that analogy. And what really frustrates me in the UK is the fact that healthcare lags so far behind science and evidence, and you need such a high bar for a medication to be approved and to be licensed. And as we know, there are probably relatively few psychiatrists that are willing to prescribe off license medications, or prescribers rather, who are comfortable prescribing off license. So I think these types of kind of conversations, better than this, obviously, and the research that was shoddily put into a script for this will lead to I mean, quarter-arsed, really. I think it will lead to new treatments, but we're talking 10 or 15 years from now, probably, because as you know, you've not just got to design a compound and get it into phase 4 clinical trials. You've got to have enough of those trials that you can then show a regulator, look, it's safe, it's effective, etc. And that takes fucking years. And we need those treatments now, really, because think of the 20% for whom the current treatments either don't work or the side effects are too great, and you get offered CBT if you're lucky, and we know that often doesn't work. So immediately there's 20% of, I test my maths now, 5% of the population. So that's 1% of the population who have untreatable ADHD, effectively, don't they?
Yeah.
And therefore,
medicated.
Unmedicatable ADHD. So we need more treatments, whether they're drugs or not, whether the other things you talked about, mindfulness and cognitive training. Now, I remember when I used to work for a different organization, and you and I were involved in trying to develop a green paper on the gold standard post-diagnostic treatment for ADHD. And we put in the things that we knew were important, like psychoeducation, like therapy if it's needed, like coaching, like kind of support for sleep. And I think that mindfulness training done in a way which is kind of a bit personalized can be really powerful, because I can't do it on my own. I just can't. But maybe if there was a way of somebody, a practitioner, as part of this kind of pathway helping me, then that could help me with my brain learning, rewiring to do things differently. And if we step back a bit to when the brain first starts to develop differently, in that kind of 4 weeks post-conception, particularly to the first kind of 6 or 7 years of life, this is where I think neuroplasticity is important, if you like, or the way in which these receptors can have an impact. Because if they are not allowing or facilitating neuronal connections and long-term potentiation, etc., during that period, then surely that's one of the reasons that the brain develops differently in ADHD. If the machinery that's there to help build neural connections, and they're all new technically at that age, aren't they? It kind of must be involved in some way. So it gives us an indication as well in the future of where of applying, if you like, personalized genetic approaches to treatments. Because if you know that somebody has a mutation in an NMDA receptor, for example, that might mean that a DCS or a compound like that might not be useful. But I think that is another glaring gap in the knowledge, because we need this shit now. So why is it that we, other than, not why is it, because there's no one doing research, why shouldn't there be a large trial looking at these things post-diagnosis, at cognitive training, at mindfulness? Why is it that we don't have studies looking at some of the compounds which have been developed? And it always comes back to there isn't any money for ADHD research, not the type of money you need. Because if you're going to do the type of trial that has 6,000 people in it, that's going to last for 2 years to measure effects, you're looking at millions and millions of pounds, and that ain't going to get funded. So I think for me, my personal reflection is just one of vast irritation and anger at the fact that our healthcare system, yes, it's creaking, yes, it's under-resourced, but the almost the bits that direct healthcare professionals to use treatments just hasn't got its eye on the ball, hasn't had its eye on the ball, and doesn't appear to be open enough to developing new treatments that aren't as easy as a drug company's developed a drug. We'll see if it's safe and affordable. Yeah, we'll approve it. I think it should be more nuanced than that. And I suppose that's my reflection, I guess. What about you?
Just awful, yours was. Yeah, no, it's the same. Mindfulness feels to me a bit like wet pavement causes rain. Is your squash too strong, James?
Yeah, it's still, I've watered it down. It's still too fucking strong. Oh.
So ADHD mindfulness is different. It's what I do, and it's like you can do it when you're filling up the car with petrol at the pump, because that takes 3 hours, and it feels like it doesn't have to be while you're not doing anything else, sat on a chair with your arms out going But there is the question of self-esteem. Do you need self-esteem in the first place and peace to do mindfulness? I suspect you might do. And what I think we need to do is work on what can increase neuroplasticity from the start. I love this future idea of neuroplasticity being permanent and freeing me from needing to take meds every day. Not everyone. I just wish I didn't have to. I love that idea. I think triggered by what you said, really, Jim, what you've said a few times, is that I also think we should explore personalized childhood treatments that are environmental as well as medical. So an example might be not exposing kids like us, and me especially, to the shit school system from every country. This isn't an English thing. Look at what triggers healthy learning. Like, do that. Not making me sit in a classroom listening to droning on, bored, and then constantly testing me. If I'm in dialogue, if I'm encouraged to think and act and move and then learn in the way that I'm interested rather than lists of facts, it would cause long-term potentiation in my brain, lead to neuroplasticity, and might enable me to live without meds in the first place. This isn't fucking rocket science. Ironically, could lead to that. At the moment, what it feels like we're trying to do is test. Remember this, remember the facts. Here's some facts. This is when this person was born, 1066. And I'm like, fucking, I don't care. And then they test you and say you're thick. It's like trying to fatten a pig by just weighing it every day and not feeding it. And it annoys the shit out of me. I think encouraging self-authored neuroplasticity by looking at what triggers our dopamine in the first place, what interests us, how do we work, and doing that. Do you know what? I've accidentally invented Montessori schools, haven't I? Which have already been around.
Accidentally invented.
Yeah. That's it, really. Frustrating, but really exciting and hopeful. I
think one of the hopeful bits as well is, because this is about neuroplasticity, for those of us as old as, myself, pushing 400, the possibility that something could still cause my brain to work in I don't like saying a more typical way, but in a way that has less of an impact on my day-to-day life.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? That's the disorder. The disability of ADHD is the atypical extreme, isn't it?
It is. I just think there's a little bit of hope in there somewhere. And I know you say it's hope, it kills you. But I think it's nice to have a hope.
In your case, it's garlic and steaks.
Yeah, moving water, etc. It is, yeah. So I like the fact that for some of us, as not as old as me, as old as you, maybe Al, which is 65, it gives us a bit of hope for the future.
Yeah, brilliant.
Anyway, have you got time for a game?
No, checked.
Yeah, well, I double checked, and we have. So this is, I'm over at Mum's at the minute because she's still blind, frustratingly. So I'm having to provide some care for her. And I came over here yesterday morning, and I'd really prepared for this, Al. I'd got everything packed and sorted because I was meant to be coming over on Wednesday, but then I had a migraine. So when I came, it was Tuesday, but when I had a migraine and came over yesterday, it was like, oh God, just grab stuff. And I didn't bring my MacBook charger with me, which is kind of needed when you've got to use your MacBook for coaching and recording podcasts and stuff. So I source to replacement, but obviously got it wrong. So you got 3 options as usual, Al. Did I A, buy the wrong replacement charger cable? That's option A, Al. Did I 2 buy 2 of the wrong replacement charging cables? I'm trying to make it easy for you, obviously, because you're so shit. And option 3, did I actually have it with me all along?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I don't like this at all.
Good.
I don't think it's A, wrong cable, because wrong cable is what you've heard all your life from everybody. Do you like that? I can see a little snort. I don't know. That's a really tricky one. I'm gonna say I don't know why. I'm gonna say you bought 2 wrong cables.
Oh, you fucker.
Yes.
I know. You got it right. I did.
It's it's the most ridiculous one. That's what I went for. That might be my new approach.
Do you want to know how I bought 2 wrong cables?
Yeah. You pressed buy now on Amazon, didn't know you had, and then put
No.
buy.
I was going to go through Amazon, then I realized, hang on, do you remember that Argos and other stores are available exist where you can pick stuff up? So I looked and there was one in stock, so I ordered it. Now I'm over in Kidderminster with Mum, went down to the store and showed them my phone. They scanned the thing and went, yeah, that's at the Oldbury store. So I'd not changed my postcode and I'd got the charger to be delivered to the Oldbury store. So I had to buy another one and then wait 6 hours for it to come. And then, Al, it was the wrong charger. So it doesn't even work. But luckily...
And presumably you've taken it back.
No, not yet. No. Luckily, if you just plug any USB charger in, it'll trickle charge, which is how I can work this. So I fucked it up in so many fucking ways.
That is good. I don't think there are other shops like Argos. There are shops that work like a shop, but if you also want to just sit there for half an hour for no reason in between buying...
I know. I didn't want people to think we were in the pocket of big Argos.
Big Argos, yeah, no.
Yeah. Anyway, you've got one back. I think that's like 5-2 or 4-2 or something. But you know,
I do as well.
It's surprising. And on that note, that was episode 199 of the ADHD Adults podcast, which Howard is exactly how you waffle and bullshit your way through a podcast without getting straight to the point. If you're interested
in that review, he said, can we get to this? Like the 3 of us.
I know.
I love that. That is amazing.
If you're still listening, then obviously you can still get a hold of ADHD Unpacked at various book retailers. You can send us letters via the website www.adhdadults.uk to find out more, to join our Patreon, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Trigger warning, klaxon. Klaxon. Big klaxon. No. Trigger warning, klaxon. Klaxon.